let's get into this. All right, guys, we're back for another episode of the Fall Podcast, and today I've got two gentlemen on from the Painted Arrow podcast and Painted Arrow, company. Outdoors, you guys call it Painted Arrow Outdoors, or is it just the Painted Arrow?
Yeah, so originally it was Painted Arrow Outdoors, but we've kind of made more of a push to just be calling it Painted Arrow. Just okay. As the brand has grown, we're kind of referring to everything just as Painted Arrow now. Yeah,
for sure. I got Devin and Nate, and with that, where did Painted Arrow come from? Like, where did the name come from?
You want to go into that one?
Yeah, we could be long-winded with this one. There's quite a story. I think there's quite a story to Painted Arrow in general. Originally, back, I'm going to say 2017, 18, I started a podcast, Painted Arrow Podcast, and it was basically, I was just out of college. I was working a corporate job, and I wanted to scratch the itch of. I think a lot of people listening probably feel that way. We're like, you have an Instagram page, you have something like that's your passion, your outlet. And for me, that's what Painted Arrow was. And Painted Arrow, the name specifically, was always something that I had said. Devin and I had always kind of said, like, you shoot an animal with an arrow, it's a bloody arrow, it's a painted arrow. And so it's kind of something that. There wasn't any, I would say, moment that we decided, hey, we're going to call this thing Painted Arrow. It was just like, it felt natural, early on. But, the podcast specifically was, like I said, it was my outlet. It was, I interviewed all sorts of people on there. I'm talking turtle experts. I interviewed a guy who was a butterfly expert. Like I am very interested in wildlife and the ecosystem and just biology in general. And I dog sledding folks. I interviewed anybody who would talk with me. And that's originally how Painted Arrow started. I can let Dev kind of take it over in terms of, what it's turned into today. But I will say that, Dev and I were lifelong friends. We went to grade school together. We played on, sports teams competitively. We're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
We're brothers. We're brothers. Day oneers, best friends. And this company, as we've scaled, I know some people may not have heard of us, but as we are scaling, I do think a lot of our success has just come back to like our relationship.
Right.
A lot of partnerships, you hear about failures in business, and partnerships are tough because, you're 50-50, right? But I think our communication and just from day one, we've always been like, we're boys before we're not going to let money or products or fame or fortune or anything like that come before
why it started.
Yeah, that's really what we talk about on a daily basis. And I'm kind of getting a little bit away from the question that you asked, but I just kind of wanted to lay that out because first time being on your podcast. But yeah, Dev, why don't you take it over in terms of like how we've scaled from that just being a podcast?
Yeah, so Nate and I, like he said, we're good friends in grade school and then through high school, played sports together, that kind of thing. Kind of went our separate ways in college. I went to Western Michigan, you went to Concordia. So regionally we weren't that close, didn't stay necessarily in touch that well. And then coming back so we're from Jackson, Michigan. So coming back to kind of the Jackson area after school, we just, we kind of rekindled and we're like, hey, you want to go fishing? And that we started kind of talking more after college, really. And, originally I was uninvolved in Painted Arrow. It was a passion project for him. It was a creative outlet for him, like he mentioned. But we both kind of uniquely found bow hunting or got really interested in bow hunting at a very specific time. And we were always like in the same point in our trajectory as bow hunters because we kind of started the journey at the same time. Both grew up hunting, but got serious about bow hunting at the same time, kind of right after college. And actually, the Mag Pro specifically, the product that we really kind of came onto the scene with is a product that I had an idea for on a hunt on my family property. And so I had basically shot a deer back. I tracked him too early. It was a liver hit, and I jumped in the truck that night, pissed off. I didn't end up finding the deer, and I remember telling myself, like, had I been filming, I would have known where I hit that deer, and given the proper amount of time, that deer would have been dead in that bed instead of me running him onto a neighbor's property and through a creek and never found him. And so I literally jumped in the truck that night and threw my phone up on a magnetic dashboard mount that I had. And it was literally like just a light bulb moment for me. And I was like, I bet I could find a way to just film with my phone, because I didn't want to go into the woods with all the gear. Like I wasn't at all going to do this for YouTube or anything. Like this was purely a recovery thing for me specifically. And so my background and day job is in manufacturing. I went to engineering school, and so I kind of designed something that would halfway resemble what it is today. And I showed Nate, made a couple at work. With the blessing of the owner of the company, he kind of allowed me to use the equipment on night shift to, tinker and do whatever I wanted to do. And so made a couple, showed Nate, and he was like, "Holy cow, that's cool." And we actually used them for a couple seasons before we were even entertaining the idea of bringing it to market. Again, all the while, Painted Arrow is just a passion project for him with a podcast. And I actually had a small fishing soft plastics lure company that I was working on at the same time that he was doing Painted Arrow. So still buddies, bow hunting, friends, hunting buddies, but not involved in business together at that point. And really, we both are, like he said, cut from the same cloth, very entrepreneurial, and wanted to be in business for ourselves at some point. And we would always discuss business and scheme. And I remember there was just a day where we were like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, he was basically a co-host of the podcast.
Yeah,
has been on the podcast. It was like number one interview, and and we literally had a moment where we were like, we're talking about. Sorry to interrupt you, but we were talking about like making food plot seed and branding it for a really easy consumption of like what are the seed mixes that we're making, like there's a lot of companies out there like that now. Like Domain's one that really comes to mind, where they do a really good job of marketing. Like that was kind of our idea, and we were starting to like take steps towards that. And then, we
were like, what can we sell? And I remember, we had been playing with this product, but we didn't really know if it would be perceived as a gimmick or like a viable, archery product that people would use. Because, there's, I don't want to say similar, but there are phone mounts for your bow on Amazon that are, cheap crap. And so we didn't know, like, are people going to look at this as a legitimate product, or will it gain any traction? And I remember we were like, let's just try it. Like, what do we got to lose? And it was kind of around that time that we decided to, become partners in Painted Arrow. We branded the product under Painted Arrow because he kind of already had the podcast. We revamped the logo and, some branding and that kind of thing. We literally made 100 of the first version of the Mag Pro, went to a local trade show in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was a 3-day show, and in a day and a half sold out of them, of the first 100.
That's
and
awesome.
we were literally like,
we were blown away.
Dang, so maybe we have something here. And, at that point, we really kind of doubled down, and we're like, okay, well, let's make more. And, for the first year and a half of the company, really, and even up until this point, we've just been very bullish with just dumping all of the money back into the company, try to make more product, continue to innovate. We've pursued a patent on the product early on that's still in pending status currently. But from that point forward, it was like, Painted Arrow kind of came to light with a different meaning, right? Like this, our whole branding became help people recover more game. Like we're all going into the woods with a 4K camera in our pocket anyway.
Yep.
And not everybody needs to or wants to be a YouTuber, but if you can use this thing that's going into the woods with you anyway to maybe give you some additional intel that you wouldn't otherwise have, that results in you finding the buck of a lifetime, why wouldn't you do it? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where, we really leaned into like the recover more game thing. Like, yeah, filming your hunt's cool. Showing your buddies the buck you saw is cool, but it's cooler to go find him. And so we really leaned into that, and it really took off. And then we've just continued to innovate and listen to customer feedback. And, do you have one for an 8-degree drop, stabilizer? Do you have one for a crossbow? Do you have, and so we've just tried to plot those data points and listen to that feedback and then build out a product line on the heels of that.
That's awesome. To hear you guys come from a passion project is to what you are now. And when I look at your brand, like there's brands out there you look at and you're like, I just want to be a part of that brand because it looks cool. You know what I mean? I look at Painted Arrow and I see that brand. Like I literally, not gonna lie to you, I built my podcast table off of your guys' podcast table because I watch your guys' podcast table on YouTube. And if you ask my buddies that have come in here into my like studio area, I've had like 4 different tables. I've had couch setups. I cannot find what I want to do. And I'm like, you know what? I like what they got. So I kind of like took, like I would watch your videos, I'd stop it and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it that way and do it.
You
So
should have just reached out. I would have given you the plan.
Well, I just ripped it right off from you guys. So like, hopefully you don't have a
awesome.
patent on your table.
No.
Or anything.
That's awesome.
But
No,
I
that
guess
means a lot, though. Before you go on, I just want to say like that seriously means a lot because, I don't know, this is a bootstrapped company. There's no question, like from the ground up, and just to hear you say that, it means a lot. It really does.
Well, and early on, like you're convinced nobody's even paying attention.
Exactly.
Like, I'm still convinced of that.
Yeah.
And admittedly, like we've been way less consistent than we should be with our podcast, just because we are so focused on scaling the business. We've been leaning more into media, specifically on YouTube, and trying to grow that platform because that's weak for us. But the podcast for us has always been just like a personal diary. Like it doesn't necessarily have this consistent theme. It's just like, hey, Nate, what are you doing on your property? Here's what I'm doing on my property. And it's like, it's more of an outlet and a journal for us to be able to look back at the years and say, oh, that's what I did that year. And here's how it worked or whatever. But yeah, no, that means a lot to hear you say that. And it's been wild to get to this point because like, we'll probably get into this a little more, but from that point going to that trade show, we were like, okay, well, we need to double down. We need to like actually lean into this and see what can happen here. And from then to now, like we were operating out of Nate's, a bedroom in Nate's house, and then it moved to my house because Nate was moving houses, and then I moved houses again. And actually, there's a large. I had an extra outbuilding essentially on this property, and we've built out this entire facility in this outbuilding. And so like, it's just been so divine the way everything's lined up.
That's the key. What you just said,
yeah.
divine. We call them God winks. We're
I like
God-fearing,
that.
man.
Yeah.
But like things that happen that is unexplainable for any other,
Yeah.
God put that there for a reason.
Yeah.
Like even as back as the trade show that we went to, random notification on the phone. Hey, there's a trade show coming up. Never had been to a trade show. Never even thought about didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And here comes this trade show, and I literally call up and like, hey, what's a booth? Like stuff like that. Like just little things along the entire journey until this point where it's like that was divine. Like that was supposed to happen. And I think, I could sit here and tell you a lot of different things about that specific topic. But yeah, it's just been divine intervention along the way, things that were meant to happen, people that we've come in contact with. And I don't think that you're any different here today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm a firm believer in divine intervention. I have some scenarios where I don't even want to say them out loud because I'm like the jinx guy. I'm a big baseball guy. I never touch the white lines. You don't do any, like I'm very like, I don't like doing that stuff. So like there's things going on in my life right now that I don't even want to say out loud because I feel like it's divine intervention. And if I say it, then it won't happen, you know what I mean? Or it won't like fully go through. So I totally get that. And I kind of lost my train of thought there, but what I was going to say is, Devin, I think you said something about you're still like wondering like if people are paying attention. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Everything I do, like I'm getting, and I'm in my 7th year of podcast, and I feel like people still aren't like, you know what I mean? Like, you see the back end analytics and everything, and for me, everything looks great, but still, I'm like, what else can I do? I'm always every day. What else can I do more to like get it out there to 3 more new people, or, and just kind of keep moving the needle. But what I'm struggling at is, like you said, it's like more of a self diary. That's where I'm at with it now in year 7. Like, I was actually having a conversation with a buddy this morning, and I'm like, and I asked him, I said, do you think hunting podcasts are dying? And he goes, I don't think they're dying. He's like, I think they're slowing down. He's like, I think some people need to start killing shit to have some stories, and I'm like, you nailed it. Because I feel like I could eventually see myself getting to the point where the podcast only runs during the fall, because there's so many, everybody's out there on other podcasts all the time. I mean, we could go through a litany of names and you've heard them a million times on a podcast.
Yep.
So like, for me being a host, I want to talk to new people every week, and it is hard to get that, and I didn't mean to make this about podcasting, but you brought it up. I'm passionate about it. So do you guys do you guys get into that at all when you have guests on? Because I'll tell you what, you guys did the podcast. I listened to it the other day with Nate about your high country mule deer hunt. I loved it. Ate it up. I love to hear you awesome. Just like embracing the suck, man. I loved it. And I fall into like just having a guy in here and just BSing about what we'd normally BS about around a campfire at a bar. Like that is what's cool to me, but that really doesn't move the needle a lot either. So like, where do you guys find yourself in that?
To be honest, when I think of the question of is podcast dying, to me it seems like there's just a lot of hunting podcasts now. And so it's either a big buck story that's going to get people to go listen to that specific podcast, or you've maybe done a good job of like establishing essentially like a personal brand, a brand around yourselves where people are interested in tuning in just to hear what you're doing. And so like, we've always taken the approach that it's just a diary for us, and if it's uninteresting to certain people, like we haven't even considered ever monetizing the podcast in any way. Like it's just something that we put out to try to give a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain of who we are as the the owners and operators of Painted Arrow, and we basically expect nothing from it. It's just an outlet for us. But yeah, it's interesting to see just how many podcasts there are. Like there's just a lot of people that are doing it now, and so like how do you differentiate and stand out or break through it?
For sure,
it's a tough thing.
I'll just say real quick, not to go on the podcast tangent, but it's something. It's a really, I think the reason it's been so successful is amongst all industries. It's a media outlet, obviously. Joe Rogan, for example, like it's not just this thing; it's this storytelling, and that you look way back in time. I mean, we're talking like the Stone Age. Storytelling is truly. I mean, it sounds crazy when you hear people say it, but it's like how things are passed down. Stories from like I can sit here and tell you stories about my grandpa that I don't have any other form but the story, and it's like it is so personal to listen to somebody's podcast. It's I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but like to Devin's point, there's just a lot of them. So like weeding out the good and bad, it's I have like 10 podcasts that I listen to. If you listen to that mule deer hunt podcast, I was miserable multiple times in the middle of the night, and I think I had your guys' podcast on because it was like I just went to my downloaded. Whatever was downloaded, I just pressed mix, and like I think I was in and out of sleep and in and out of consciousness, but like it's just this thing, like hearing people talk, it's very personal, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I really don't.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, like for somebody who just has a podcast and doesn't do other forms of media, I don't know how you would necessarily break through, but people who maybe are connecting with you as a person on other channels, I can see that funneling traffic to want to hear more about that person and their life in a podcast format, because like you're saying, it's such an intimate, like authentic thing. Yep. Like it's a great, for a lot of people who already have a personal brand, it's a great add-on piece of content because it's another peek behind the curtain to know that person more intimately, really, if you're using the platform for that. So, but yes, like for just a podcast, there's a lot of podcasts. Like I don't know how you break through as just a podcast. So
yeah, for sure. Well, I want to get off the podcast topic because I do want to talk about when you guys were starting Painted Arrow, not the podcast part, but like all the gear and the products that you guys make. What were some of those? You said you used some of those before you guys went live with them. What were some of the biggest setbacks in that? Because I could see like, you're trying to get it to the point where you want, when you shoot the bow or something, there's not much vibration or something like that. That's where my head goes to. Like, what was some of your biggest setbacks, if you can talk about them or if you want to talk about them, down that road?
So I'll just give you like the one that you just pointed out with the vibration I got in my hand here.
Yep.
People will be able to see this, right?
Yep.
So this is our basic like compound bow mount. This is our number one seller. It's the Mag Pro Plus. This is for your compound bow, magnetically attach your phone to it, film your hunt. Early on, like we noticed, like when you put this onto your bow and the stabilizer's holding this, you'd get a ton of vibration like this.
Like a tuning fork.
And the footage would be horrible. And I remember, from a testing standpoint, early on, we didn't have this slot on the back. We had a hole. So just a solid hole. So you stick the stabilizer thread through there, and it created this huge tuning fork effect, like Devin said. We went to the slot. We soon realized you could compress down on the top of your stabilizer bar this foam. But I remember early on, like it took us almost a year to kind of develop that.
As simple as it seems, it's weird to say that, but like
we started out putting like fox hide under there, like just
because you had a chunk in the barn.
Yeah, like hey, like, grab a pair, whatever, pair of gloves or something like, and then we kind of slowly honed in like the type of foam, the neoprene, like what I mean. It slowly. That was one specific thing that you touched on. That really came a long way, but go ahead.
I'll show you something here. This is kind of like a peek behind the curtain. This is the first ever product. So that night that I was pissed off, I literally came home and I cut that dashboard mount off the dashboard of my truck. And then I went home and I took these two L brackets off the wall that were holding up my wife's curtains. And I literally, took bolts and wing nuts to put them together. I then tore apart the magnetic housing that was on my dashboard and basically screwed this thing together. And you can see like it has, one hole, not a slot. This is literally like what I proved the concept with. Like put this on my bow that night and I was like shaking the thing around to see if the phone would fall off and it didn't. And then I was like, that's when I was sending videos to like Nate and some people like, look at this thing. You think this will work? And then I shot it. And then, then we iterated to then get to this thing where we now have a bigger magnetic platform. The magnet housing is obviously way bigger just for more surface area. But anyway, like that's serial number 0 right there.
I love that. And, it's funny, like I was just at our warehouse working with Latitude, and our behind the scenes things. And you walk through there and you see things that like Kev or Jake might be working, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And it's like, you're taking your wife's curtains apart. Like it's stuff like that. And it's, I'm like, it's crazy for an engineer's mindset or, to watch Jake Metallic or Kevin Leach, like think, not talk, just think about something is wild. Like I can almost see the gears turning and it's like, and then Jake pulls something out and he's like, here we go. This is it. And I'm like, wow, you got that out of that over there. It's just like crazy. I love seeing stuff like that. Because that's the grassroots, that's where it started. And for you to pull that thing off of your dashboard and then take your wife's curtains, does she have curtains now in the house still? Or did,
that was an older house, but I literally came upstairs and showed it to her and she was like, cool. Like, she had no idea, but that's what's interesting now is like, I'll remind her of that day. And then I'm like now look, now we're selling branded products. So it's funny to, to think back to that day specifically, but
now are you guys just vertical bow guys? Or are you guys gun guys, crossbow guys too? Like, how did that come about? Like getting those pieces for those other, weapons, whatever you want to call them, to like market?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't discriminate. We personally typically shoot a compound bow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of dabbled in the trad bow. I've kind of dabbled in a crossbow. I've shot it. We both shoot, shotgun, rifle, whatever you want to call it. But specifically to how we develop those, like I mean, it's really as simple as just us listening to customers, going to shows early on. You go to a booth and we got a product. Like, hey, what about this? What about this? So you start having these conversations.
Yeah.
After 55 people in a day say, hey, do you have a crossbow mount? You're like, shit.
we probably should have a crossbow mount.
Yeah. So like, it's honestly as simple as that. We go to the drawing board. Is it something that's viable? Is there a market for it? The cool thing about what we're doing, and I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but we're kind of creating our own lane, with some of these products. Like, it's not like there's not really anything out there like it. Some of the things that we're trying to create. There's nothing really out there like it. So a lot of it's kind of testing the market too. Like, we've had products that we've put on the website, made a batch of it. Maybe it's slow rolled. Maybe we just didn't think it had any traction and pulled it off. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting timing too, because at the beginning of this year, Tacticam just got rid of their POV line. So I don't know what happened there, Nate. Sorry. Tacticam got rid of their POV line. So like, the only thing that people really can film with now is a GoPro or a phone, it seems like. So that was interesting timing. But I just think the phone cameras are continuing to get so good and so much better with the image stabilization and different things that they have. It's just, it's worked well for us to, we're not a tech company. We're making, mounts that allow you to use the piece of tech you already own. And so as those advance, our product line has to scale with them. But yeah, that's been like a big piece of it.
Yeah, and I think you guys definitely came in at a very good time because, the TV space for hunting is in my opinion, it's dying. It's I was in the TV world for 11 years, producing shows and everything, and now I'm kind of more I'm heavily on the digital side. And the TV world, I stopped watching hunting television in 2015. Like, I haven't watched a hunting TV show, and I made them for 6 years after that. I never watched them because it just wasn't. Kind of goes back to why I started the podcast, is because it was like fictitious in a way. It was like fairy tale land. Like, we guys like us don't get to do stuff like that. I mean, yeah, we could, but it takes 4,000 acres in Kansas is a lot of money, and not just the next guy has that. And getting back to my grassroots and starting the Fall podcast is because I grew up a Michigan hunter and how I did it. But I think you guys got into it at the right time because a lot of guys are filming. I mean, if I go to someone and they tell me that they don't film their hunts, it's more weird that they don't film their hunts now than that there are people that are like, oh yeah, I got it on film. Like, if you don't have it on film, it's almost like, really, you don't have it on film? It's like almost the standard. Do you guys get that a lot?
More and more. It's from the beginning. It's like, okay, well, how many people film their hunt, or how many people want to film their hunt? But then the question became like, how many people would film their hunt if they could easily? Mm-hmm. Like, if we minimize the barrier of entry, and you don't got to buy a camera arm, and you don't got to buy this expensive camcorder, how many people would if they could easily and cost effectively? And so I think there's a lot of people now that are customers of ours that are filming their hunt that would have maybe told you previously, I have no interest in filming my hunt. Actually, that's been one of the most fun interactions at trade shows. Is like early on at trade shows, like, you got to picture Nate and I here. We don't really know what we're doing necessarily. Haven't been to a ton of trade shows. Don't even know how to sell what we have yet. So we're like figuring out the pitch on the fly, right? Like, what are we even selling at that first trade show? And so literally at that first trade show, people would walk by and we'd be like, hey, you got a cell phone? And they'd look at you like, yeah.
It's 2020.
Yeah. And then we'd be like, are you a bow hunter? And they're like, yeah. And then be like, come here, I got to show you something. And then we would just slap it on and just hold it and just let the silence happen. And they'd be like, huh. Or they'd be like, no shit. And then, but a lot of those interactions would be like, I have no interest in filming my hunt. That's how they would start. And then it's like, well, once you lean into the recover more game thing, like you're going into the woods with this anyway for $50. Don't you want to know where that deer went? Even if, and the blur becomes a thing that people talk about. Like you're not going to get rid of the blur entirely with something mounted to your bow because your bow has a ton of recoil. But the foam does a really good job of minimizing it, helping the footage recover. And if you have the wherewithal to follow that deer for even a couple seconds after that shot, you're getting a bunch of intel you would not otherwise have. You get down from the stand and it never looks the same. And if you follow that deer, you now can look back at the footage and say, well, he went around that oak tree, jumped over that log, and you can walk to the blood trail. We've really leaned on it for recovery.
I want to just add too. I mean, it is. We could do a whole episode on
pitch,
this. But like the quality, that's probably the number one question. Like, what is the footage going to look like? What can I expect? So new iPhones, okay? I'm just speaking specifically to iPhone because I know, but I know the Google Pixel, the S21, 22, 23, they have auto image stabilization. We're actually working on a YouTube video right now, and it's going to be something like how to get the best, how you can get the best footage using the Mag Pro. And we go through how to adjust your settings. There's all these different action modes, and you can mess with things at low light. There's a lot of ways. And I mean, we've gotten some footage that it would knock your socks right off. It's like you can't even tell that you're shooting on a bow. Okay. So you get a lot of these guys that got an, old Matthews solo cam and they have an, iPhone 13. Okay. Well, let's be realistic. The thing that's taking the footage, it's just old technology. And that's not to say that you can't use it and still get great intel, as Devin was saying, but the new stuff, I mean, if you're using like super brand new phone, iPhone 16, iPhone 15, if you got a Matthews lift that has all this dampening stuff on the bow, and it's just like the quality is just through the roof, and you can see a lot of times point of impact if you are practicing well enough to like hold the bow up. That's probably the biggest thing that we see is people get great footage, but they drop their bow, and it's just a practice thing. It's really, it's just a reps in the yard. We've perfected it. I mean, we can show you video and footage of deer that we've shot, like epic. I mean, the one that you shot out back here, unreal. I mean, it's crazy. So that's something that we're working on doing. I can't believe we haven't done that video yet because we get so many questions on, what can I do? What are the adjustments I can make? So we're working on that right now.
Yep.
And that's all people are looking for is just like the cheat code of like, tell me what I need to do. Like and that's something we see on Latitude side as well, is like, we have to be so like blunt with people, and like that's what they want. It's just like, here it is, the last year in Kansas. So my good friend, he placed in your Mag Pro. So Eddie Smith,
the Mag 5, yeah.
Yep, I was with him in Kansas, and I didn't even know he was filming. And I get a phone call. I'm in the tree, and he calls me, and it's still daylight, and he's like, dude, I just smacked a hammer. And I'm like, really? I was like, how was the hit? He's like, man, the footage looks great. And I'm like, wait, you filmed your hunt? And he's like, yeah, I've got this painted arrow mount. And he's like, I got it all right here. And I'm like, well, send me the clip. He sends me the clip. I'm like, oh, that deer's done. And I'm like, and that's when it like hit me. I'm like, wow, this thing is legit. Like, and we went to the impact, found blood, all that stuff, then filmed the whole recovery. And then he,
100%.
He gave it to you guys for, I think he placed in your top 5 of your,
I know the exact hunt.
Yeah, that was a sweet buck.
Quick side story. Early on, before we even came to market with this, Devin had a monster Michigan deer come through. He calls me. He didn't end up killing it, but he calls me. He's like, dude, I just had a monster. Like I
was like, I literally just had an encounter with a 170-inch deer. And he's like,
really?
Oh, crap.
And so he's filming on the Mag Pro. So he literally sends me the footage. I'm hunting 2 hours south or an hour south. And I remember we had this moment of like.
Was that before we launched?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you still had the curtain rod on your bow then?
I think it might have been a couple iterations after that, but it didn't have a logo or anything in it yet. It was just, yeah.
But I just remember that moment for us where I'm like, well, send me the footage. He sent me the footage, right? And I'm reliving his hunt, which is a huge branding point for us now. Like #relive the hunt.
Yeah.
Like he sends me this hunt, this deer coming in, and I'm able to watch it immediately after he has this encounter.
Like it just happened.
And it was just like really powerful. It's like, wow, like we can do that now. We can have these experiences, and he can send it to me, and I can rewatch it and be like, for sure he was 170 inches. Like,
Yeah. That's the coolest thing, because how many times have you shot something in the tree, and how many phone calls are you making before you even climb down? You know, like a dozen phone calls. It's like, hey, send the text out to the boys, get your lights ready, boys. We're going tracking, kind of thing. Exactly. You know, that's crazy. That's wild. And that right there, like you said, Devin, you started this whole thing on like recovering your game. Right there, like if Eddie wasn't filming that, we all have to go on his gut, like everybody does and has done for years. But after we saw the footage, like, oh, we can go get him now, you know, and we did. And I actually edited his video together. I had to take a lot of F-bombs out of that recovery, so I didn't want you guys to like get canceled or anything, right? Because when we walked up on that deer, I'm like, holy crap, this is a stud, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
it's made it weird, like how much I rely on it, or how much of a tool it is has made it weird. Like I've shot one deer with a gun recently, and it was like 110-yard shot, and walking over there and trying to find blood, and like I think he was standing right here, but maybe he was standing over here. I'm like, this is so weird not being able to know right where he was standing. Like until you don't realize the tool that it is until you've got it, and then once you don't have it, it's like, well, I think he was right here, but maybe he was over here. So that's that was a weird thing for me. It was the first deer I shot with a gun, you know, recently, and I was like, dang, this is odd.
So growing up, I probably should have asked this earlier, but growing up, like, what was your guys' hunting experiences like? You know, were you guys bait hunters? Was that like we're down there in Jackson? Was it a heavy bait? You know, like it is up here. You know, we still got guys baiting like crazy up here. It doesn't matter. So was it bait experience? I know you guys are in the shotgun zone. We can shoot rifles up here. So it's like, what was your experiences like?
I'm gonna go first.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I can remember some of my first hunting experiences were with my grandpa. He is both of our grandfathers. When I say we're cut from the same cloth, like you probably hear a similar story from Dev.
Yeah.
But my grandfather, I remember sitting between his legs on a tree stand that he built on some 2x4s, and he would sit on a 5-gallon pail. I mean, that's my first memories of hunting.
That's awesome.
It was all shotgun hunting. We didn't bait, but I was kind of brought up. I learned a lot as I got into the hunting industry. I'd say, like, we would do things that are not legal. Now,
but you didn't know
they had no idea, because
Right.
I'm just looking at my grandfather and my dad for guidance, and you know, like for example, like we'd roll around in the minivan that my grandfather had. It was an old silver Chrysler minivan. We'd leave the back trunk popped with a gun loaded in the back, and if we saw a deer, we'd get out and shoot at it. Didn't matter whose property it was. And I say that like I was 12 years old, right? But I have got multiple stories of my grandpa telling me to go crawl down that hedgerow with somebody's property. I don't know who it was, but crawl down there and try and shoot that deer out in the middle of the field, like banging off in the middle of somebody else's property. Like,
awesome.
So like all that to say, like, you know, like when we found bow hunting, we really took it very seriously, like reading the regulations and
doing things the right way.
Finding out that you can't buy, like we used to always go out and buy tags. Like, hey, you buy a buck tag, I'll buy a doe tag, shoot whatever we see kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that stuff is not, that doesn't fly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people still do everything that we just discussed, but that's not how we operate now. But that's truly how I got into hunting. My dad didn't shoot a bow. My grandpa didn't shoot a bow. I kind of did that thing on my own. And Dev probably has a similar story.
Yeah, I was like 7 or 8 years old. My grandpa took me hunting for the first time, and we went out the night before, and literally like we were just walking through the woods, and he's like, "Yeah, this looks like a good spot." And we like made a blind out of some downfall and set up our buckets. And I remember on the way back out, he had these little reflective thumbtacks, and we'd put them on all the trees so that with his flashlight he could, you know, track right back to the same spot in the dark. And I mean, just sitting on the ground on a bucket with a shotgun, you know, squirted doe pee all over my boots, and in we went. So that was kind of my first experience with hunting with him. And then, yeah, early on it was just shotgun hunting with my grandpa. And then somehow he got, introduced to bow hunting. I think he literally bought a bow at a flea market because he was like, man, if I could hunt more of the year, why wouldn't I bow hunt?
That's
it was
a classic.
Like
the older generation's mentality.
Yeah, like
bow hunt, if I could get in the woods a couple more days, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was like for him. So, and then I painted his fence and all of his barns when I was like 12 or 13. And as payment, he took me down to Shoepex, which is a local shop here, and got me all rigged up with a small little alpine hunting bow.
Was it a Fatal Impact? Alpine Fatal Impact? Because that was one of my first bows.
It might have been. I don't know the exact model. But that was I hunted with that thing for 2 or 3 years and never even got drawn back on a deer. And then for me, it was like a switch flipped after college. And so he mentioned athletics a little bit. Like, we were both really into sports in high school, and then I went to college and got kind of really into triathlon, and did some long distance triathlons. And then after college, it was like, my identity's always been rooted in like whatever I'm about or what I'm interested in. And so, bow hunting and hunting kind of just became, it was something I was always interested in, but never made time for because of sports and stuff through those early years. And then it was just, I just kind of dove in head first. And so really from maybe 20, 22 years old, somewhere in there to now, bow hunting is just kind of all I do really.
Yeah.
But yeah, he my grandpa was the one that kind of introduced me to it. And then bow hunting, I just have taken it to a level that, he's never really been too much into it at that level. So, and he hunts with a crossbow now.
And I can see that in your guys' content. Devin, when did you kill I think you put out a YouTube video this last summer sometime about a buck that you killed around some pine trees, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah,
That'd be right there.
Yeah.
I was very invested in that video. Like, for some reason, and I ask myself this every day almost, because I went to college for television and digital media productions to like video. Cool. Like, I filmed my first hunt when I was 16, and that's what I wanted to do. Like, if it wasn't professional baseball, which I tried my damnedest at, and I knew it was, it got to the point where it's like, okay, you're 5'10", average white guy, can't really run very good. Like, you're at your peak here. So, like, the filming thing was what I wanted to do. And, I've been doing it as a job for 13 years now. And it's been much like cinematic, and now it's kind of morphed into like the more dirty, like Whitetail Adrenaline style. Like, I really love that. So when I see people self-filming or, filming on their phone or something, I would click on that 100 times more than a driven Pat Reeve cinematic, beautiful Heartland Bowhunter, beautiful cinematic thing. And I don't know why, but like, there's something romantic about that I absolutely love. So like, when you guys put out content like that, just know you're getting one view from me at least.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we, as I mentioned, we didn't start this to be YouTubers per se. But what we're trying to do this year, and what we've had some success with last year, is filming just enough content on your phone with like an interview, and then hopefully you're getting the kill on film and all of that. And so those are almost the intro to the to the film, and then the film really is like a recovery vlog where maybe you're doing a little storytelling, but we've really kind of leaned into this more vlog format where it's just like the camaraderie of let's go find this thing and let's talk about, what happened this morning and yada, yada. So I think that's what we're going to try to do more of this year. Assuming we have some successes, is try to replicate more of like a recovery style vlog that maybe, if we have a lot of history with a deer and you've got a bunch of trail camera photos with him, and maybe I hung a set for him specifically in the summer. We'll touch on that. But the format of the video is going to be more kind of along those lines.
Typically all on a cell phone too. I mean, that's kind of our brand, right? Like the hunt that I just got back from, mule deer in Utah, like That was all done. That entire video, the whole YouTube video, was iPhone footage.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's raw. It's in the field. It's a lot of times we'll be together. A lot of times we won't. But that's just kind of the brand.
Yeah.
And that's a good transition into my next question. As far as I was telling you guys off record, I like to spot and stalk in Michigan here or anywhere. But if I'm an opportunist kind of hunter, if I see a deer with a doe and wherever it might be and I can get on them spot and stalk wise, I'd like to do that. So I've killed 2 pretty good deer in Michigan doing that, but I haven't been able to film it because I just don't have like a guy filming at my beck and call. And what are, like, if you guys removed yourself from Painted Arrow and you guys were like, okay, I want to be able to film this better, and you're looking at the brand Painted Arrow, like, what are some things like you would be looking at from Painted Arrow to capture, a spot and stalk hunt, the best to your ability, whether it's with a phone or a GoPro or something like that? Like, what are some things you would recommend to people? Like, this is what I'd really hone in on to make the viewing experience even better and still not take away from the hunt and make it the best possible.
Yeah.
So we call it the Mag 5. So it stands for, it's kind of a play on words, but it's the magnificent 5. So it's basically, we highlight the top 5 hunts of the year every year that's submitted in. Yep. And that's one of the ones that what's your buddy's name? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Eddie Smith.
Eddie.
Yes,
Yeah,
Eddie.
Yep.
So that was how we saw his footage. So we got a film sent in of a kid, I can't remember his name, but he was elk hunting in Montana. Okay.
Bryson or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Epic footage. All he had was a bow and a cell phone and this product right here, the Mag Pro. Okay. And he had a free app. We actually tried to make an app, but it's not worth it in terms of the
juice
cost.
isn't worth the squeeze for what's already available.
Right.
Yep. So there's multiple free apps out there where you can film on both ends of the camera, so front and back. So you get your face on our product. You turn the camera around. If you set it up on the right side, obviously you can put the camera on the right or the left. If you're right-handed, I'd put the film camera on the left side. If you're left-handed, be the opposite. But basically, you can see forwards and backwards. So you can see the reaction of the hunter. You can also see the footage that you're shooting. And the footage that he sent in, kind of like, we started using that and really started testing the dual-sided camera. And I don't know the names of these apps. I think one is like Dual Gram.
Dual Gram is one of them.
But just do a search. But in terms of a spot and stalk, like, that's what this kid did. He got this epic footage of him shooting this gnarly bull in Montana, and it's like it was so easy for him. Like, when you really truly looked at it, like, he was focusing on the animal, and the only thing he had to do is remember to hold his arm up and film the animal.
It was cool too because, like, during the approach, he's talking to the camera and documenting what he's trying to do, or like, I'm trying to get to the next tree or whatever, and then he takes a shot. And then he's running, and like, you're seeing his face freak out, and he's trying to get up and get the follow-up shot.
That's awesome.
And so it became like this, it's just split screen. Half the screen's facing him, and half the screen's facing the animal. And sometimes, depending on the app you choose, it sacrifices the quality of the video because of the processor in the phone, or it definitely depends which one you choose. But that was a really cool thing because you were seeing him talk to the camera at the same time you could still see the elk. So,
and we do make other products. There is a market for camera arms, right? Like, it's very clear. We've had a lot of people ask us to make a camera arm. This is our number one selling product. It's most affordable, I would say, and it does a lot. And I'm very biased. I really like that product. We have a bunch of different options for you. If you want to film in different ways, we have handheld. We have all these different second angle options. If you have a GoPro, we have a GoPro mount, which is
the best footage.
It's beautiful footage, especially the newer GoPros are just very vibration free. Like, it has the auto image built in to the actual camera. So there's options for a GoPro too. But in terms of, like, if you just want to, like, start and test it out, the Mag Pro Plus, it's all you got to have is an iPhone or any cell phone. Any cell phone, and you're in the game. So that's really what I would recommend. That's what I tell a lot of people if they just want to, like, test it out, see if it's for them. do some practicing in the yard. That's the biggest thing, is just get some reps in, practice, putting the camera on, practice turning it on, test the different settings, like spend some time using it. And I think you're really going to be impressed.
Oh, that fires me up. That makes me, I didn't even know an app like that existed. Like that makes me like, hey, if I'm in a spot and stock situation, why not just grab my phone and go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no thinking. I mean,
and there's
just
all
go.
these shortcuts on phones too. Like this is the iPhone 15 and it has the button that on the side. So you just like, I set that button up so it takes me to video mode with the preset settings I already want. So literally of 2 clicks of that button, it's filming.
That's awesome.
So it can become like from my pocket to filming right now, it's a second and a half.
Yeah.
And we've perfected it. We really have. Like, it's like filming.
Yeah.
It has to be easy to use or people won't use it. That was like the number one thing from the beginning. Like, okay, we got a cool idea, but if it's not easy to use, people aren't going to buy it and use it.
Yeah, that's the truth. And like what you guys said, you were working on that video for the best settings for your phone. I think, didn't you guys put one out like that? Because I feel like I've watched you guys talk about like how to navigate your settings in an iPhone or the best settings you found. I thought it was you guys that I watched that you did that. Didn't you do one already?
We did it on a basic level, but there's a lot more that we could have got into. Yeah.
That one specifically was just how to turn on preserve camera settings in your iPhone, which all that does is if you go to your camera and swipe to a specific zoom or, video instead of photo, and then you lock your phone, the next time you go into your camera, it's going to be with those same settings you had already pre-selected instead of defaulting back to photo.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. You guys have nailed it on this Mag Pro. I mean, like you said, you have the 8 to 10 degree, because a lot of guys shoot that degree drop in your stabilizers. So you've done that. You've done for a GoPro, the bridge lock, because all those bows are going to integrated mounts. Like you guys are ahead of the game, I feel like. What are some products that do you have anything in the hopper that you can talk about that you're coming out with maybe, or?
Yeah. We got a couple really hot ones.
Oh, man. If you can't, it's fine.
No, we can. One we've been teasing for a long time. That
one's on the website.
It should already be out, but we've just been so... I don't know what the right word is, but we've just done a lot of testing and don't want to put it out until it's absolutely perfect and we trust it. And it's our shotgun mount. So it'll be mounted to a barrel, and it's going to be, what you want for turkey hunting or duck hunting. But
or
obviously, or pheasant. Yeah, I mean, anything. But the key there is, a shotgun has a lot more recoil and kick than a bow. Mm-hmm. So you can't rely exclusively on the magnet. Also, when you start considering duck hunting, you've got water to worry about. And so we're just trying to make sure that we have all of the necessary fail-safes and features in the product, that it's going to be exactly what it needs to be for who it's for. So
we're on revision.
Like
20.
But
a lot of revisions.
In theory, you just probably shouldn't be mounting a phone to a shotgun. But
that's funny that what you just said, because we've talked about that a lot. Like, realistically, God didn't make cell phones to be mounted to. So we're trying to do something that's not supposed to be done.
Yeah. So, but the most recent rev, I'm personally pretty confident in. We're going to be doing a lot of testing with it this fall. If everything goes well, even if that results in minor tweaks, we should have that available before next turkey season.
That's the goal. That is like the goal.
So
if you're out there listening, don't send me an email. That's the goal.
All hate mail to paintedarrow.info.
That's right.
That's good stuff. Like, I want to talk about your Mag Pro arm as well, because it's got the little clamp on it. Would that be good for like an e-bike? Because I have an e-bike and I want to be able to film myself going in, like talking to the camera or something like that. Like,
yeah.
I like that.
So this is
right there.
This is the one you're probably talking about. This same thing, same magnetic platform that's on the Mag Pro Plus. Just uses the plate on the back of your phone. But yeah, it's just got this crab claw clamp on it. This opens to specifically 2 inches. So like a lot of 2x4 framing for box blinds is 2x4s. So we wanted it to be able to open with the idea that this could be set up in the window of a box blind. So you could set this up, have your phone independent from your crossbow or your bow. if you don't want it to realize the recoil of the bow. That's cool. Some guys will mount it to, a tree branch in their stand or the shooting rail of their double stand. I mean, it's a multi-tool. It really is. But we have another one called the micro arm, which it doesn't have 3 articulating joints. It just has 2. But that one's a lot more compact. I mean, the micro arm, I really, really like that one. And honestly, I'd probably would use that one for an e-bike if it were me. But in terms of like an all-around multi-tool, this one does awesome on an e-bike as well. And you can use it for a lot more, has a lot more use cases as well.
Now, do you make it where you can put the GoPro mount on it or can use the GoPro mount on that one right there specifically?
So this collar swivels. And so there's a cutout. And what that allows me to do is lay this down flat. And so
perfect.
Then we have a shim plate that goes to the GoPro shoe that makes the GoPro basically sit right on there.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. That's very, very popular with, like, that's a really fancy, nice, highly adjustable second angle. So, like, if you're in a tree, right, put that crab claw on like a limb or something, and then you put your GoPro on that. I mean, we've had guys,
sweet,
2 or 3 angles of that. It's really nice.
Well, and this one knob controls all 3 of these joints. So this joint moves, this joint moves, and this joint moves. So once you get it positioned where you want, that one knob locks everything out.
Yeah. That even looks like it packs down pretty small, though, too.
It does. It really does. Yeah. The micro arm is just a little bit smaller. And I mean, maybe micro arm's definitely less adjustable, but a little bit smaller. And the micro arm's cool, too. And this is cool as well, to take our fluid head and screw that on the end of it instead of the magnetic head. And then you could put the magnetic head on the fluid head, but then you could mount this to anything. And then you've got all of the pan tilt option of the fluid head as well.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of that in like a box blind or a double stand if I hunt. I do a lot of saddle hunting, but specifically in like my double stand, it'd be nice to have that on a shooting rail and just be able to pan and tilt with the phone. So
sure. You bring up your saddle hunting. So like, what would you say to the saddle guy that's self-filming? Like, what are some things that he could use or, to make it a little more, because that's what I do too, is saddle hunt, and I bring in a camera arm and I've got a bridge camera that I use, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a pain in the ass. I hate it, but I've been filming myself for so long. I feel weird if I, like you guys said earlier, I feel weird if I don't take a camera in with me or at least try to.
My go-to setup, I don't personally have a 360 cam, but like for a diehard saddle hunter, what I would run would be this on my bow with my phone. And then we have a product called the Mobile Mag, which is a strap system. And so it's got a swiveling magnet head with a strap. So you strap it to the tree above you in your saddle, and then you could put a 360 cam on that magnetically, adjust it to wherever you want. And then you can, from what I understand about those, you can zoom into any specific spot that you want in post and have it film specifically that location. So I would probably run a 360 cam above me and then my phone on my bow for like minimalist saddle hunting without a camera arm.
I would agree with that. The other thing, like, I just got back from this mule deer hunt. It was like a 4-night, 5-day, backcountry hunt. I filmed the entire thing on the micro arm and the compound bow mount. Like,
really
super light. I mean, if you go watch that footage, I think you'd be impressed. Like, it's just 2 products, a camera with a cell phone camera, and me. Like, there's nothing else in that entire video, and I did the whole thing in that.
How many gigs do you have on your phone? How much did you take up on that trip?
That's a really good question. So this is actually a really good question because I've had this quite a bit in the past. Like, a lot of guys have Netflix. A lot of guys have subscriptions to stuff that I don't. Like, my brother has like an underwear subscription. Like, I always give him shit for it. I'm like, what are you doing, brother? Like, I spend money. Like, one of my things I spend money on is like the unlimited iCloud, right? I don't know how many gigs or terabytes it is, but like, I don't worry about that.
Okay.
I don't ever worry about, I invest in giving myself as much storage as I need. And so I'm never sitting there like trying to delete something so I can record something. That is asinine to me. Specifically with what we do for a living. I mean, I just have unlimited storage on here. I recommend it. I think I pay $2.99 a month. you add that up in a year, like that's a no brainer.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Is that the 512 though? Probably it's the 512.
The 512?
512 gigs.
No, this is
what
the
I think.
256.
Oh, it is. Okay.
That's a 256
Yeah.
gig phone. But I'm maxed. I'm pretty sure I maxed that out.
Oh yeah. So, but the extra is just dumping into iCloud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I've got so much crap. I only have 128 gig, and I'm constantly trying to take stuff off there. But I've got trail cam videos because I love running my trail cams on video. I've got trail cam videos from like 2019 on there that I really just need to take off and put on a hard drive because that shit adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
that was interesting that's what I kind of wanted to know too, is just like, what are you guys running for, a phone as far as, the gigabyte in space? Cause like even my spot and scope, I have a phone scope, but I have my old iPhone that, that is just dedicated for my spotting scope. Like
that.
there's just tons of videos on there. So I don't have to worry about, my main phone getting, filled up, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. I think you guys got. I personally think I've never used your product, but I've seen Eddie's, and after he showed me that footage, and then I started diving into it, and then I think we were with like 11 other guys. All of our buddies were in that trip, and I think over half of them after that bought your guys' Mag Pro, and they're all like, "Oh," in our text chain, they're all like, the pictures are coming through. I just got my Mag Pro and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, well, thing sells
awesome.
itself.
Yeah.
Well, so you have to send us your address. We'll hook you up.
Yeah.
with
We'll
one.
get you hooked up.
I appreciate that. So what going forward in 2024, what is your guys' hunts looking like? What are you gonna, Nate, I know you've already been on one here, but like what are you guys looking for 2024 season? You guys gonna travel a little bit?
So we have first rifle elk in Colorado that we'll be doing. That's I think we leave October 9th, and the season's like 12 through 16.
Okay.
Kind of during the lull here, really. And then I think after that, it's going to be a lot of hunting around here. We might try to get down to Ohio, depending on how things go around here. But he's got his home farm. I've got a home farm that I live on, and then I've got another another family piece as well. So I'll probably try to split. If I fill 2 buck tags, I'll probably try to split them between the 2 properties if I can. We've got some halfway decent deer on camera that we're excited about, but it's going to be a lot of around here, and then specifically the Colorado hunt, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. The we're family guys. We got young boys. So like we're kind of still trying to figure out how
That
to
part's
travel.
new. Yeah,
and
that part's new.
Yeah. So I just went on that one hunt. We're going to be going to Colorado. Our travel between January, February, and March, just for
For Painted Arrow.
for Painted Arrows, it's gnarly. I mean, it's fun. It's necessary, and it's all good things. But like we specifically, I mean, I invested in land in Michigan because it just makes it a little bit less stressful in terms of like
Trying to get away.
where am I gonna get to go out, and it's just a whole nother aspect to like I really tip my hat to the guys who like live and die by public land and can get it done every year, because it's tough, man. I'm telling you, it is tough, and I think those guys are on another level. I do some of that. We definitely do some public land hunting, but like we more so. I'm speaking for myself, but it's really nice to have like a property. I really enjoy the food plot stuff and learning about, cutting timber, and it's just, I mean, I love all that. Like I'm a busybody. So if I can get home from work and run out in the woods and like, mess around and just, like sweat a little bit, like that's really, I mean, that's 90% of the year, right? I mean, hunting is, if you're lucky, it's 2 to 3 months of the year. So I really like having land just for that reason. It keeps me busy. And this will be the first year for me. I moved in 23. So I've been at this house for a year now. I've had one hunting season in there, and we just logged 709 trees out of our 70 acres. So like this year is like a huge question mark. Like we've gotten some deer on a trail camera, but like that doesn't really mean much, just in terms of how the property lays out. Like I don't have no idea what to expect this year, so I'm kind of excited to, I don't know, just see how some things move through and compare and contrast versus last year. So yeah.
Yeah. I've been following your transformation on that property, and I love how transparent you guys are and how you're like, "Oh, yeah, I just screwed
We
up."
don't know what we're doing.
Yeah,
Have we
well-
mentioned that?
Well, that's like the cool thing about it, because I feel like just with social media and a platform, everybody has to be like so prim and proper. Like, I feel like that's like, and I hate that, and I never want to come across as that either, because dude, I screw up just as much as the next guy, and I just like how transparent you guys are. I think you broke a piece of equipment or something like that, and you had to take it out on a trailer and go get it welded up,
yeah.
or and I'm like, that's the stuff you don't see a lot of people doing, and for me, that's the cool stuff. It's the suck. And I will go back, like you talked about the public land. Those public land guys are on point. I will say, I have a young family. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she is my life. She literally is, everything revolves around her. And we only have one kid, and we're only going to have one kid. So it's like, I want to cherish every moment I can with her. And I travel to hunt. I try to do one trip a year. But for those guys, that are constantly on the road and constantly hunting, and whether it's public or private, there's a big sacrifice you have to make. And you can't tell me that you're being 100% at home, whether it's a husband, wife, or, father, boyfriend, whatever. Like, there's sacrifices, man. You hear like Dan Infalt talk about back in the day when he's like, I'd miss Christmases. And I'm like, I can't do that. I love hunting, but I can't, I wouldn't be married if I did that,
We talk about it because I feel like a lot of podcasts nowadays are doing a good job of, busting open these experts and what does it really take to do it at that level every single year.
Yeah.
And I think what Nate and I have talked about a lot of the times is like, okay, well, it takes, as you would expect, unwavering dedication. That is priority number one. And like he mentioned, he's got a 1-year-old. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm not willing to sacrifice. Like, if that's what it takes to do it at that level every year, I'm not willing to give that up. And I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. Like, I am actually cool with that. Like, I will kill the deer that I can kill while maintaining a life and a relationship with my kids and my wife that I'm proud of.
But we do stretch the damn limits. Let me tell you what. Lord.
Well, and that's like my wife the other day. She goes, "You need to put in the dates that you're leaving for on the calendar so I can get babysitters lined up." Because I work from home every day, so I take my daughter to school every day, and I usually pick her up. So because my wife leaves earlier, and it's like, okay, I got to have someone on point for 10 days while I'm gone, and when I'm gone, it is in my head: is everything getting done that I usually do, and not stressing my wife out. Like, that's a hard mental game to get over.
That's the tough part about being away is like, once you're away, how do you be dialed and ready to kill and not stressed about everything you're leaving at home, feeling guilty, that kind of thing. Like that's a fine line too.
If I could just say, like, I just got back from this mule deer hunt, and I really felt a lot of that, and we could go really far into this as a tangent, but I feel like coming back, like, 3 days is like perfect.
Really?
You know what I mean? 3 to 4 days. Like, I was gone for a whole week. I mean, it's tough. Your mind starts to wander. Like, and sometimes it's necessary. Like, that specific hunt, you're flying. Like, you got a lot of money invested. Like, there's a time and place. But for me, like, in our shoes, got young kids, got a wife, got a company, whatever. A lot of responsibility other than just you having fun. Like, I think 3 days is enough to, like, get out, clear your head, have a good opportunity to hunt. Like, for me personally, like, I'm going to try and shoot for more of those, like, long weekends.
3 to 4 days, yeah.
Sleep in the truck, do something like that. That to me is kind of it's enough to, like, get out. Like, it's important to do those things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I truly believe that. Like, we wouldn't all be sitting here talking about all this because we love.
That's what we love.
We love the bow hunt, the chase, everything about it. It's like, that's what we're here for. So I think it's extremely important to do those trips. However, I think we're all agreeing here, like, there's a give and take on all of this, and that's very important to understand.
There definitely is, for sure. Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up. I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time out today to jump on this. I want you guys to plug everything you're doing again and where people can find you, buy your products, but also listen to the podcast, because I very much like listening to the podcast when you guys drop it as well. So kind of take the time and let everybody know where they can keep up with you guys.
If you like the actual website, Painted Arrow Outdoors, soon to be paintedarrow.com, but paintedarrowoutdoors.com. All of our social media is just Painted Arrow. I don't think there's anybody else out there with that tag. One thing that I think as Devin was saying early on, like we're starting to kind of invest in YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. We've had some videos that we're just learning, honestly. Like we're just trying to show people what we're doing. We're not trying to overproduce, but we're trying to get more into the video stuff. And one thing that, like we mentioned, the logging series, that'll be the first series, like really in depth, 10 plus episodes, like a full on, we're giving it our best shot. That's going to be releasing in January. So basically, episode 1 of however many. I think we're on 10 plus right now, but I mean, we've documented the entire logging project, and from the lens of a deer hunter, we've had professionals come in, we've had conservation folks, we've had timber harvest specialists, the whole thing, showing the before and after, the drone footage, like everything. And that's I'm kind of hyping it up because we've invested a ton of time into it, and I'm really curious to see how it does. I'd love for anybody listening in January that's going to go live, and that's going to be basically each episode is going to debut in the time frame that it was filmed the year prior. So it'll be like live time, just a year. It'll be very consumable, I think. So we're really excited about that. And the other thing I'll mention too, if you do shoot an animal with one of our products, send it to us on the website. It's pretty easy to do if you just get there. Video submission, click on it and upload it. So we love seeing that stuff, and I really, really appreciate the time, man. I really do. It's an honor to be on here, and I think we're grateful for it.
Likewise, yeah. I mean, I'll echo everything Nate said. Yeah, we want people to. We want to help people recover more game. I mean, that feeling when you shoot a deer and you don't find him sucks, and that doesn't go away. And that is why we created the products we did. And people will speculate everything that they'll speculate, and it is what it is. But that's why we made the products. We love bow hunting, and yeah, I'm honored to be on here as well. I appreciate the time, and we're excited for season. Yeah,
well, that means a lot for you guys saying that. Honestly, it does. And you got, like you said, Nate, you're gonna do the Mag 5 video submissions again this year.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And when do you guys pick those again? Is it just after season? I can't remember.
Sometime in February, okay. Because there's some late, even though the hunting seasons end in 2024, like a lot of January is, still open. So we just like to have all the submissions in, and then we'll sit down and review them all. And it's a super fun thing for us to do too.
Yeah, I like watching that moose hunt last year was wild. That was the coolest thing ever. So if anybody out there shoots something with the Painted Arrow product, or has it got to be a mag product or the mag
any
mount?
of our products,
any product.
Okay,
yep.
With a cell phone, obviously, or a GoPro, either one.
Yeah, and then submit it. I'm going to come for the crown this year. I think I'm going to try it out. I think I'm going to try to get the top spot. So
we didn't hear where's your trip? Your out of state trip?
Illinois. I'm going to Illinois.
You're going to Illinois.
This year.
Got
yep.
it.
And
Cool.
I'm sloshing around on public. So I've never killed a public land deer. I tried my first time really trying was last year in Kansas on that trip. I went full draw 3 times, and one thing or another happened. I just screwed it up. Let's put it that way. So I gotta be better. I gotta do better. So we'll see what happens.
Right on. Well, good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you guys as well, and thank you again for coming on, and hopefully, I'll be excited to watch your guys' content throughout the fall. So thank you guys very much.
Absolutely appreciate you, man.
Thanks, brother.